Someone is looking at a photo of your child right now, not a hacker, not a criminal, a corporation, a legal, publicly traded, trillion-dollar corporation that you handed that photo to yourself, inside an app you open every single day, and you never even knew you did it. WhatsApp's new feature is not a privacy update. It is not a storage improvement. It is a silent pipeline that takes the most personal images you have ever shared and feeds them into the largest behavioral data machine ever built by human beings, and it turned on automatically, on your phone, without a single honest sentence explaining what was actually happening. You need to know exactly what this is, exactly what it is doing, and exactly how to stop it before another photo leaves your device. And you need to know it now, not after the next update, not after the next revelation, not after the damage compounds further than it already has. WhatsApp rolled out what it is, calling advanced photo and video management across its global user base as part of what was presented as a routine infrastructure improvement. The framing was deliberately ordinary: better compression, faster delivery, smarter storage, the kind of update description engineered to produce exactly one response from the person reading it. A tap on the accept button without a second thought. And that is precisely what 2 billion people did. They tapped accept. They moved on with their day. And in that single tap, without understanding it, they opened a door that had never been opened before. What actually changed behind that door is not about speed or storage. When this feature activates, your photos do not simply travel from your phone to your recipient and stop there. They enter a processing pipeline inside Meta's server infrastructure. The same infrastructure that powers Facebook, Instagram, and the most sophisticated targeted advertising system in the history of commerce. Inside that pipeline, your images are not treated as personal communications. They are treated as data, and data, in Meta's world, exists for one purpose: to be analyzed, profiled, and monetized. Here's what that means in terms you can feel rather than just read. Every photo you have sent on WhatsApp since this feature activated, every image of your home, your family, your daily life, your private moments, has entered a system that does not see those images the way you see them. You see a memory. You see a person you love. You see a moment you wanted to share. The system sees coordinates, faces, objects, relationships, behavioral signals, and purchase intent data. It sees information it can use. And it uses it whether you know it is happening or not. The feature did not ask for your understanding. It only needed your tap on accept. The analysis that happens to your photos inside this pipeline is not simple. These are not basic systems checking file sizes or flagging spam. These are state-of-the-art computer vision models trained on billions of images, capable of identifying faces with extraordinary accuracy, detecting locations from environmental cues in the background of a photo, reading the objects in a room to infer income level and lifestyle, identifying health conditions that are visually apparent, recognizing relationship patterns from who appears in photos together and how frequently. Every image you have ever sent through WhatsApp while this feature has been active has passed through this analysis. Every face, every room, every street corner, every moment you thought you were sharing privately with someone you trust. Think about the photos you send on WhatsApp on an ordinary day, a picture of your child at school, a photo of your home when you're showing a friend what you are renovating, a screenshot of a medical document you need someone to look at, a picture of yourself at a location you have not announced publicly, an image that contains financial information, a photo taken at a political event or a religious gathering. Each of those images carries information far beyond what your eyes see when you look at them. Each of them is a data point. Each of them, inside this pipeline, becomes part of a profile about you that is more detailed, more accurate, and more commercially valuable than anything you have voluntarily provided to any platform. Now here is the part where WhatsApp will tell you that none of this contradicts their privacy policy, and technically they are right, because their privacy policy was written by lawyers whose job is to make data extraction legal, not to make it understandable. They will point to end-to-end encryption and say your messages are protected. End-to-end encryption is real. It protects the content of your messages while they are traveling between devices. But end-to-end encryption does not protect your content from processing that occurs after delivery. It does not apply to the analysis pipeline that this feature routes your images through. The encryption story and the data processing story are two separate stories, and WhatsApp tells you the first one loudly while the second one happens quietly in the background. This is the core of what makes this particular update different from the routine privacy concerns that have always existed with large platforms. It is not that Meta is collecting data. Everyone paying attention has known for years that Meta's business model is built on data collection. What is different here is the category of data and the intimacy of the source. WhatsApp is the app where people share things they do not share anywhere else. It is the app for family group chats, for conversations with doctors, for messages between partners, for communication between people who chose WhatsApp specifically because they believed it was more private than Facebook or Instagram. The entire value proposition of WhatsApp, the reason it has 2 billion users, is the perception of privacy. This feature exploits that perception. It takes the trust that people placed in a private messaging app and routes it through the same data infrastructure as the most invasive advertising platforms on Earth. Meta understood this when it acquired WhatsApp in 2014. The founders of WhatsApp understood it too, which is why both of them eventually left the company in protest over exactly this kind of data integration pressure. John Coombe and Brian Acton built WhatsApp on a principle of radical privacy. No ads, no data collection, no games. They sold to Meta for $19 billion. Watched the promise of privacy get systematically dismantled over the following years, and walked away from billions in unvested stock rather than participate in what the platform was becoming. When the people who built the product leave because of what is being done to it, that is not a minor disagreement about product direction. That is a signal about the fundamental nature of the change. The rollout strategy for this feature followed a pattern that regulators in Europe have specifically identified and criticized as deliberately non-transparent. Default on, buried opt-out, complex settings menu, vague update language. Each of those choices individually might be defensible as a design decision. Together, they form a system whose purpose is to maximize data collection by minimizing the number of users who understand they have a choice. The European Union's General Data Protection Regulation requires that consent for this kind of data processing be freely given, specific, informed, and unambiguous. Burying the opt-out 3 levels deep in a settings menu behind language that does not describe what the feature actually does fails every one of those requirements. Which is why WhatsApp has faced regulatory scrutiny in multiple European jurisdictions over its data handling practices, and why the version of this feature that rolls out in Europe often looks meaningfully different from the version that rolls out everywhere else. If you're not in Europe, you receive the version with the fewest protections and the least transparency, and the reason for that is not complicated. The regulatory environment outside Europe does not require the same standard of consent, so the default is set to collect, the opt-out is hidden, and the expectation is that most users will never find it. Here's how you find it right now. Open WhatsApp. Go to Settings in the bottom right corner of the screen. Select Privacy from the Settings menu. Scroll until you find the section for Advanced Features or Photo and Video Management. The exact label depends on which version of the app you have installed. Inside that section is a toggle. It is on, turn it off. That is the opt-out. That is what is standing between your photos and the processing pipeline. A toggle that the vast majority of WhatsApp's 2 billion users do not know exists, have never seen, and have never been clearly told about. Turning that toggle off stops the collection going forward from the moment you turn it off. It does not reach backward. Every image that passed through the pipeline before you found this toggle has already been processed. So the data that was extracted from those images has already been stored. The profiles that were built or reinforced by that data already exist. The opt-out is not a reset. It is a stop sign placed at the end of a highway that has already been traveled. To address what has already been collected, you need to submit a formal data deletion request. Inside WhatsApp Settings, under Account, you will find an option labeled either Request Account Info or Delete My Data. Selecting that option and following through to submit the request initiates a deletion process. Meta is required by law in several jurisdictions to honor these requests within a defined time frame. The completeness and permanence of the deletion is not something you can independently verify. But submitting the request is not futile. It creates a legal record of your request. It triggers an obligation, and it is worth doing regardless of your level of confidence in the outcome. Beyond the immediate steps, the deeper question this feature forces is whether WhatsApp is the right platform for the communications you trust it with. That question has a different answer for different people depending on their situation, their contacts, and what they use the app for. But Signal exists as a genuine alternative for people who want end-to-end encryption that extends to the processing infrastructure around the messages, not just the transit between devices. Signal is operated by a nonprofit. Its revenue model has nothing to do with advertising. It cannot profit from your data because profiting from your data is structurally incompatible with how it is built and funded. The trade-off is that fewer people use it, which means switching requires your contacts to switch with you. That friction is real. It is also the reason platforms like WhatsApp have been able to expand their data practices gradually without losing users. The cost of leaving is high enough that most people absorb the privacy cost of staying. The people most at risk from a feature like this are not people with something to hide in a dramatic sense. They are ordinary people who share ordinary private moments in the belief that private means private. Parents who photograph their children. People managing health situations they have not disclosed publicly. Individuals in countries where certain political or religious associations carry real danger if exposed. People in relationships that are complicated. people whose financial situations they share with a sibling or a parent, but nobody else. The intimacy of what flows through WhatsApp is precisely what makes the data extracted from it so valuable. And that same intimacy is precisely what makes its extraction without genuine informed consent so serious. Sharing this information is as important as acting on it yourself. The people in your life who need to know about this toggle are exactly the people least likely to encounter coverage of it. They are using WhatsApp every day, sharing photos without a second thought, trusting the platform because it has always presented itself as trustworthy. Your grandmother sending photos of the garden, your brother sharing pictures of his new apartment, your friend sending you a screenshot of something private. None of them know this pipeline exists. None of them found the toggle. None of them submitted a deletion request. They trusted the app the same way you trusted it, and that trust is being used against them the same way it was used against you. You knowing about this and not telling them is the outcome these platforms depend on. Awareness that stays in one place does not change anything. Awareness that travels through the same networks the data does. That is what actually closes the gap between what the platform is doing and what its users know it is doing. There's a version of this story where a company with 2 billion users and access to the most intimate digital communications on Earth uses that position responsibly, where updates are explained honestly, where opt-outs are visible and easy, where the people building the features ask whether they should before they ask whether they can. That version of the story is not the one being written right now. The version being written right now is one where trust is a resource to be extracted, where privacy is a perception to be managed rather than a promise to be kept, and where the 2 billion people who open this app every day are valuable, primarily as sources of behavioral data that can be sold to advertisers they will never meet. That version only continues for as long as people do not know about it. The moment awareness reaches critical mass, the moment enough people find the toggle, submit the deletion request, switch platforms, or simply start demanding that the update language tell the truth, the calculation changes. Companies this large respond to user behavior faster than they respond to anything else. Every person who opts out represents lost data. Every person who moves to Signal represents a lost profile. Every person who shares this information with their contact list accelerates the point at which the practice becomes more costly than it is worth. You are not powerless here. The toggle is evidence of that. They built the opt-out because they had to. Use it. You do not have to accept that version. You have a toggle. You have a deletion request. You have the ability to move to a platform that does not treat your private life as inventory. And you have the people in your contact list who trust you enough to listen when you tell them something important. Turn off the toggle. Submit the deletion request. Tell everyone you know to do the same. Do not wait another second. And read the sentence underneath the headline next time before you tap accept, because that is where the actual story has always been hiding. Every single time. On every single platform, without exception.